Ladies and gentlemen, it is your host for today, DJ. That is the wrong image. What is that doing there? Okay, today we have GiveUAnxiety versus KingOwnage II. It's the ESOC Winter Championship 2020 Advanced Division, Round 1. Round 1, aka actually the second round, if you do count the qualifiers as part of the Advanced Division. But basically, round 1 has the top 32 players. If you consider the Pro Division round of 16, that's the top 16. The Advanced Division round 1, that's basically players numbered 17 through 32. And today we do have actually some quite equally matched players. KingOwnage II and GiveUAnxiety, both players of around the Colonel skill level, booting up into the game. I think we saw one of those players having Lieutenant Colonel status, technically. Let's see here. Alt F. The color's right. Recalc on the way. And we do have our first player, our top seed, who was actually qualified for the Pro Division originally, KingOwnage II. It's Game 1, ESOC Florida, spawning in on the south, playing as the Indian civilization. Then we have to the north, the underdog, technically, for the day, GiveUAnxiety in the color blue, playing as the Germans. Again, map is ESOC Florida. Before we get into too much of the match, let's take a look at the hunts, make sure everything spawned correctly. I see plentiful hunts, as is typical on Florida. Seems there's something missing. I don't think there's anything missing in the back. I see 4 good hunts for GUA. He does kind of have to extend out a little bit further for that 5th hunt. I guess this is the equivalent for KingOwnage. You can see it's within TC's length. That's a little bit more. I mean, they all spawned. They're a little bit asymmetrical technically, but I think these hunts are fine. You can see 2 behind KingOwnage's base, but I think that's okay because there's some hurtable hunts. Look at that. That's easily hurtable in the town center radius. There's that one too. Not one in the back, but one out front. That's not that difficult to extend for, I would figure. 2 solid hunts. I think this is okay. And looking at the mines, Florida typically spawns with a lot of mines. No mines on this side. But there is 1, 2, 3 to extend for GUA. And 1, 2, 3, 4 for KingOwnage. I think KingOwnage's resources are a little bit better, but that's kind of besides the point. Everything seems to have spawned, and it spawned well, so just take it as it is. Looking at the treasures that the players started off with, both doing pretty well. KingOwnage finding 100 XP, definitely going to expedite his first shipment. It's probably likely to be distributivism. There you go. Right on cue. There you go. Even getting that maybe roughly, I'd say, almost 30 seconds early with that 100 XP treasure, and 1.25 times 30 is about 40. So that's about 40, a 40 wood treasure in addition to expediting all of KingOwnage's future shipments. GiveUAnxiety, he got 100 food. KingOwnage also picked up 40 coin after that. That seems like all the treasures that the players have gotten so far. GiveUAnxiety creeping a 2 alligator treasure for 80 food. Turning on the fog of war, we can see KingOwnage actually towards the back of his base, scouting with both of his explorers. One actually quite low HP, about 20%. One of those elephants, those Brahmin. Going to be in need of a heal, but not right now. He's kind of safe behind the side of his base. So no real reason not to scout out as early as possible. GiveUAnxiety, on the other hand, starting to age up, 3 minutes and 8 seconds, roughly. So he'll be to the colonial age at about 4 minutes and 38 seconds, which is a pretty standard German time. I think he might have had a little bit of idle time at his town center, but not too big of a deal. KingOwnage, on the other hand, has yet to queue, sending 3 villagers forward to build an aggressive agri fort, queuing it kind of late, I feel like. But he definitely got a lot of villagers, chopped a lot of wood in age 1. Was probably never idle, but now going forward with 3 villagers, definitely going to want to expedite this this aggro going up. But you know, because of the fact that he queued it so late, I think he's going to get up at around 5 minutes 15 seconds roughly, which is a pretty late India Egypt time. especially if you're building it with 3 villagers. But still, I mean, King Onage's eco seems to be decent in behind this because of the fact that it seems like he's gathered a lot of wood, included by the fact that he aged up so late. But slowly throughout the Discovery Age, King Onage is going to get slightly ahead in terms of eco on the German player, because the German player is, of course, he's aging. He's not able to queue villagers as the Indian player is. So King Onage is going to have a good eco behind this, but he's going to age quite slow. And, going up to the colonial age with 3 villagers as India kind of tells me he's wanting to do an aggressive strategy. But having gone up so late, it's going to slow down any potential timing King Onage might be planning for, and give you anxiety. Ample time to set up a defense against any potential aggression. We see the barracks coming up for Give You Anxiety, a trade post built in the back. Let's look at the market techs. All age 1 techs researched. And I'm not sure, it doesn't seem like he's got another tech on the way. We do see the coin established to get steel traps, but steel traps as Germany isn't the most essential of cards. King Onage reaching the colonial age, those villagers being tasked to gold. I'm not quite sure, we're going to have to look at his resource count to see if he's got any units in queue. Well, or we could just look at the units in queue. 3 set boys in queue. So definitely looking to go for, what looks like probably a consulate rush. No, I think this might be a 5 set boy or just, a standard defense, and he's just going to mass up Yumis in the interim. We see 5 set boys popping out, and I'm really curious to see that first shipment, what that's going to be for King Onage. Give You Anxiety, on the other hand, 5 Expomen trained, first card, 3 settler wagons. There you go, 5 set boys, 2 set boys from the Agra. It's actually a 12 set boy rush, which is quite an uncommon strategy on EP nowadays. I'm gonna be really curious to know what Give You Anxiety shipment next is going to be. I think it would be 700 wood, but given what's on the floor so far for King Onage, it might be a little bit deadly if that pops out just now. Looking at the Yulins, a little bit of harassment at the back of King Onage's base, keeping him on the, forcing him to multitask his villagers into the town center, not be too sloppy, while also microing the Sepoys that are starting to aggress and Give You Anxiety's base, pushing the Expomen back. Also, all the settler wagons going into the town center, getting some damage in. Oh, they stopped! Pretty low HP on one of those settler wagons, but not taking it down. But this one, getting meleeed by the Sepoys, not going to make it in time. I think these... 1 settler wagon down for the count. Not a lot lost for King Onage. I think he's still got 11 Sepoys there. Did lose both of his explorers, but, as powerful as those explorers are, you're not losing much technical resource value. Although now getting snared, 8 Expomen, nice pop, getting snared by the Explorer, 2 Yulins on the way as well. A lot of low HP Sepoys there. Expomen getting in some nice DPS, good follow by Give You Anxiety. What are these Sepoys going down? That's a lot of resource value, and although I think King Onage got a nice little, it's hard to say, trade. I mean, he killed 1 settler wagon basically for free, getting 11 Sepoys lost. Killing 2 Yulins and a settler wagon for 11 Sepoys does not seem like a great trade for the Indian player. Both players now having sent a villager shipment equivalent. The recalculated economic unit population is in the favor of King Onage at the moment, but having lost so much, I think King Onage is actually going to lose a lot of momentum here. Running some more Sepoys and looking at the units in queue. Again, more Sepoys. But I don't think that's going to be the right unit that, King Onage kind of wants if he wants to continue some aggressive play at the moment. But then again, let's see, we have the market coming up. Some market techs, there we go, actually. Bloomin' ditching the 10% coin mine upgrade for Asian civilizations in queue right now. Getting some market upgrades, doing a nice job of ecoing up. And again, King Onage at the moment is slightly ahead in terms of economic power. But the 4 sour shipment... a little bit unusual, no consulate up for King Onage yet. And no 300 export or any potential for an economic shipment. Instead going for the 4 sour, so King Onage definitely going to want to look to go back into Give You Anxiety's base, continue the age 2 pressure. Let's see what Give You Anxiety is up to. Saying 700 coin, I'm not sure where that is. What is Give You Anxiety doing? Units in queue, there's no DOPS, there's no stable. Where did the coin go? Okay, so he did have the age up in queue. That's why his score was so low. I hadn't noticed it. I just noticed that he wasn't aging up quite yet, which is why thought he wasn't aging. But yeah, definitely getting that age up in. Now sieging down his stable. Good timing for King Onage. A little bit lucky, but what have you. GiveUAnxiety now calling Minutemen to, you know, ward off these camels. You see some Zambaraks, is that? No, Sours. Being trained from the stable for King Onage. But having revealed that there are 6 Sours on the field, GiveUAnxiety knows that King Onage is probably committing to age 2 at the moment, and that's definitely going to inform GiveUA as to what his unit composition and his first shipment in the Fortress Age is going to be as the German player. Likely 3 settler wagons. I know GiveUAnxiety likes to send that first in a lot of matchups. Even a Dop getting trained there. Definitely going for the defensive play. The safe play, I should say, for GiveUAnxiety. And by safe, I mean, you know, getting plenty of anti-cavalry so that in case King Onage is committing to age 2, building a lot of Sours, he'll have exactly the right units to deal with that without losing, you know, a big investment in ranged infantry. Again, more pressure coming in. Sours on the prowl. Villagers in the town center for King Onage, but wow, getting separated from the town center now. The Sours on the ranged infantry. Good surround. All these Minutemen dying. Oh, but pulling back. I guess he saw the Doppelsonder. That's why he didn't want to connect. Very smart by King Onage. Getting sight of that. Now the Sepoys following. Focusing down the Doppelsonder. And these Expo men, I mean, they're not high value units in age 3, but they're definitely going to get cleaned up. Although doing some good damage against these Sours. Taking down the Explorer. Only 1 Sour left, and not a great follow job by the Sepoys. Nothing else in base for King Onage, or nothing else reinforcing, I should say. And there you go, the three war wagons. First age 3 shipment from GiveUAnxiety. Yulin's looping around the back, gonna try to get these Sepoys in snare, but you know he recognizes they're pretty low HP. They probably wouldn't do a great job of getting the snare in. Nice job by GiveUAnxiety using the Explorer 4 to get more line of sight. Got line of sight of these camels that we're trying to reinforce for King Onage, but King Onage not doing good on the multitask and getting both of those camels picked off. So a really good defense so far by King Onage here. Again, not great multitasking from King Onage. Waypointing some camels to GiveUAnxiety's town center and just getting picked off by town center fire, villagers, and some Yulins here. Again, you know, losing some more units for free. Looking at the scores, you know, they're not terribly in the favor of GiveUAnxiety, considering GiveUAnxiety has also invested 2,200 resources, aka 22 score, into the age up. So King Onage is technically ahead in terms of what he's got on the field and his economic power. But GiveUAnxiety had a really good early age 3, if I do say so myself. You know, he didn't get idled a lot. Of course, he did get idled, at least with 10 villagers in his town center, while the Indian units were pushing through his base, but he killed a lot of units for it and didn't lose a lot. He lost some Expo men, but those are a pretty inconsequential unit in age 3 for Germans, so you don't really care if they die, you know? No skirmishers being trained yet, but we do see 8 skirmishers on the field for GiveUAnxiety and a lot of war wagons in queue. Let's look at the military units, the armies for both players. 6 Yulins, 8 war wagons, 8 skirmishers, and 5 X-women. A decent army for GiveUAnxiety so far. King Onage, on the other hand, 8 standard cavalry, 10 Tiger Claws. Coming down by this hunt, I think a little bit of a miscue, but now he's redirecting them, got them in the right control group. Sepoys on the field, 17 of them. Small raid coming in for GiveUA, but King Onage not gathering very far from the town center. Well, 5 camels now waypointed to the side. Probably going to use these as raiding material, but some camels on Yulins. Nice micro by King Onage. But these camels don't really do that well against Yulins. But still, GiveUAnxiety not going to micro that. And going to come away from it with 4 Sours still left alive. 1 at low HP. Decent trade for King Onage. Looking at the scores, again, still pretty close. In fact, at this point, despite some mistakes from King Onage as far as unit control with the pushes into GiveUAnxiety's base, you know, he lost a lot of units for free. I think King Onage is still in a decent position. He's got plenty of Sepoys and a lot of cavalry. GiveUAnxiety, on the other hand, like I mentioned, a very safe player with Germany, training a lot of war wagons, so this cavalry mass might not be too effective for King Onage. I'd like to see him maybe mix in a few Gurkhas, a few Zambaraks perhaps, so that he could have more units that perform well against these war wagons. Because at the end of the day, Sepoys still perform pretty well against skirmishers as long as you're in close combat. Again, we see a lot of cavalry units for King Onage, but I think he's going to have to really take care of his unit control here. Definitely going to want to get the Sepoys as close as possible to the war wagons so that he can focus fire them down. An engagement. Skirmishers getting good shots on the Sepoys so far. Villagers a little exposed. Sours, gardeners coming forward. A nice choke position for GUA, but the cavalry of the Indian player is getting directly onto the skirmishers. Really nice positioning for GUA at the moment. Gonna kill a lot of villagers. Also getting a lot of the Sepoy damage on the war wagons, but now a nice surround by GUA, popping out 4 war wagons, taking down all of most of the cavalry at the moment. I see 1, 2, 3. Basically no cavalry left for the Indian player. He still has, you know, these Sepoys, 24 of them, but they're all not all of them are connected. There's still, you know, some sitting at the Agra Fort over here. Again, even the war wagons now not in close combat. With the Sepoys, some Tiger Claws alive, a lot of the Sepoys down. And still looking like 1, 2, 3, 5 war wagons and plenty of skirmishers alive for GiveUAnxiety. Seems like a really good trade for him so far, but at the cost of it. GiveUAnxiety also lost a lot of villagers. You know, while these units were fighting behind the trade post, the stable, getting in a decent position with the war wagon pop. At the end of it, you know, while GiveUAnxiety is ahead, to win this game, he's going to need to push out. He's going to need to get a swing, because if you look at the economic unit population, King Onage is in a decent way. He's still got plenty of resources on the map. I mean, this hunt is quite raidable, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's only a hop, skip, and a jump from the Agra Fort and some reinforcing units over here. The silver mine being gathered again in decent range of the Agra Fort. The silver mine that was being gathered by these 3 villagers from the beginning of the colonial age, now almost being completely drained. Some raids coming up, but they're in line of sight of King Onage. King Onage following up. Again, like I said, some raids coming over here. They might have killed 1 or 2 villagers, but it's not the worst trade for King Onage. Although, on the way up, you know, King Onage is sitting with a very steep military disadvantage. We do see some Sours getting into melee with the Yulins, but it's going to be alright because 5 Zambraks is enough to one-shot 1 veteran Yulin. Just taking a look at the donation bar. I think it was a little off-center. Somebody said it was, at least. I'm gonna fix that, see if I can make that a little bit better. It doesn't seem like I quite got it, but it doesn't really let me do much more, so we're gonna call it right there. Seems good enough. Maybe he was referring to the recalc bar. That should be alright. Again, players even scoring, you know, despite taking some not so great trades. King Onage sitting with a big economic lead, and GiveUAnxiety, again, not really creating a win condition for himself. You know, if he wants to win, you know, he needs to keep the Indian player down. You know, while the Indian player was aging, that was when he was most vulnerable, having sunk 2,200 resources into the age up. Basically no military on the field. That was GiveUAnxiety's time to take a risk and push out. But, you know, playing very, very passive right here, starting to run out of resources in base, just 200 on that silver mine left. Having mined out the silver mine that was over here and over here. He's going to have to push out just outside the Agra Fort line of sight to the silver mine. Going to exhaust this back mine relatively quickly. I mean, 1,200 left on that. That's enough to pay for what? You know, I suppose 5 war wagons and a batch of skirmishers, and a little bit more than that. However, Hessian Jaeger is now on the field for GiveUAnxiety. I do figure he figures this time is now when he should push. Certainly going to be very strong. We see 84 military population to 57 for King Onage. King Onage is trying to piece it together, but wow, how does being trained by King Onage, some redcoats on the field, all units that get hard countered by these Hessian Jaegers. A ceasefire by King Onage, going to ward off GiveUAnxiety. I think it's pretty wise, but I'm not entirely sure how much GiveUAnxiety is deterred by that ceasefire. Now being ended, he does see that there was no unit pop from King Onage, so it was kind of just a fake out. He's going to use this time to start sieging down the Agra fort. In fact, we see 7 Yurumi popping out, but it seems like it's going to get scouted. Again, great use of the Explorer by GiveUA. So I'm going to get the information that Yurumis have popped on the field, but look at the scores again. King Onage at a huge economic lead for most of late colonial and early fortress here for him. That was mid to late fortress for GiveUAnxiety. GiveUAnxiety not sitting on the field with that much anti-cavalry really, but there's not a lot of cavalry on the field for King Onage at this stage. You know, going into mid and early fortress. Besides the 3 and 2 Mahout shipments, India doesn't make a lot of cavalry usually. Starting to run out of hunts. King Onage not having the resources to train much more of the units that he wants. Getting some disciplined Gurkha on the field. Still non-disciplined sepoys here, but starting to stack up the coin in the wood. Again, not having enough food to get the right connect. The right units on the field, rather. A nice surround, but I don't think it's going to be great because these Hessian Jaegers just deal so much damage, and they are the counter unit to everything that's on the field here. So picking off a lot of units, GiveUAnxiety is in good position here. Nothing really threatening him so far besides the threat of a 3 Mahout pop that would come from the Agra fort, which is still alive at 4,000 hit points. But some good kiting, some decent kiting by GiveUAnxiety, losing maybe a few more skirmishers than he needed to. But again, not a terrible trade for GiveUAnxiety in my opinion. Although, with that said, the military populations are starting to even out. So at the end of the day, maybe this trade wasn't all that bad for King Onage. I'm not sure how many Jaegers. 6 Jaegers still alive, and the skirmisher mass of the Indian player starting to dwindle, so he's going to be at dwindling gains. 2 Howdas as the shipment for the Indian player, but I don't think that was a great pop. 2 Mahouts popping, but I don't think the Indian player really has the military. I mean, we do see they're roughly even in terms of military unit population, but I don't know. I mean, the Mahouts are connecting on the skirmishers, dealing a lot of damage. GiveUAnxiety trying to do some fancy micro, splitting up his skirmishers to avoid the damage. And in fact, there's still 5 Howdas at basically full HP, dealing a lot of damage here. You know, at the end of the day, this was really not a bad engagement for King Onage. I didn't think it would have gone that well for him. But it doesn't seem like King Onage, GiveUAnxiety making the most of it. You know, a lot of the time, the Indian units, which do have slightly less range than the German ones, you know, 16 versus 16 on these war wagons, but 20 range on the skirmishers, definitely can do a good job of kiting these Howdas, kiting the 19 range Gurkhas. And not making the most of that a lot of the times in the line of fire of the Indian player, and you know, just taking even trades, what ended up being even trades, and considering the economic disadvantage that GiveUAnxiety is at, it's kind of even the military populations. GiveUAnxiety, again, still in the lead, getting a good raid, keeping up the pressure, so it's not over. You know, look at this, you know, King Onage now getting awareness of these hunts. But, you know, he's got 2 Patties in base, getting raided by the Yulins, not having a lot of units to, you know, he's not going to have the, he's already called the sentries. He might have sentries from this town center, but that's not going to be enough to deter 5 Yulins over here, 1,000 wood coming out for the German player. But look at this, the skirmisher mass getting cleaned up by the Howdas of the Indian player. Now just a few units sieging the Agra fort, but it's not going to be terribly effective. I mean, this fort isn't going down anytime soon, and even if it does, it's not a big deal for the Indian player as long as he's allowed to stabilize in his base. He did lose a few villagers there, actually almost 10 villagers so far. King Onage. Another town center coming out. Not the best positioning in my opinion with the pace of this game. Probably wanting to establish some control over the sea to potentially dock boom later, but not being too relevant at the moment. Instead, it's kind of bad for the Indian player because his villagers, you can see how far they have to walk to begin gathering resources. But not the point. The point is, Just 1 second of sloppy control from King and now his Howdas are in snare with the Yulins, getting focused down by the skirmishers. Taking down most of the Yulin so far and still having not lost a Gurkha. Now look at this! All the anti-cavalry dead for GiveUAnxiety, and 2 Mahouts left on the field. Gonna clean up this little pocket of skirmishers. No skirmishers left on the field for GiveUAnxiety, and that is 1-0. GG called by GiveUAnxiety. King Onage up 1 point in this series, this best of 5. One with his main civilization, India, on Florida. Not entirely sure what the next map is. I think, if I'm using my brain right, it might be Arkansas. But again, I can't say it's totally unexpected. King Onage was the favored player, the higher seed player. He did start in the pro division. He started against Samwise 12 in the qualifiers, but exited the pro division quite swiftly in a 3-0 loss to Samwise. So I don't really think a lot of people were expecting a lot from King Onage, considering he hasn't been practicing as much as GiveUAnxiety. But you know, anything can happen in a game of Age of Empires 3, and the first game going to King Onage. Pretty well played by him. I'd say he played a little bit better in the mid-fortress, when both players were fortress. I think his early aggression didn't really pan out the way he wanted it to, but playing as India, a lot of times it feels like it doesn't matter. You can see a lot of villages lost by GiveUAnxiety at minute 15, when he was trying to hold the Age 2 push, the final push in Age 2 from the Indian player. At the military unit population again, a really good trade here. Look at that, 16 to 6 sepoys, or 16 to 6 military units from the Indian player. A pretty good trade. He did lose 1 settler wagon and a few expo, I suppose, and Yulins, but that big. Then GiveUAnxiety made it to the next stage. I lost a few units, a few more. A pretty good trade for King Onage overall. But then the last push in Colonial Age really not going that well to the favor of King Onage, but GiveUAnxiety not making the most of it, not pushing out, instead choosing to play passive, which gave King Onage time to get to Age 3, mass up, and take some good fights. And with the economic lead, it was just enough for him to eke out victory over here. Hop out, move on to next game. Again, played on ESOC Arkansas. Aware of the rules, so it seems like King Onage's lock is going to be the Sioux on Arkansas, and it'll be GiveUAnxiety's opportunity to counter pick. You know, there is still everything in the roster for GiveUAnxiety. We do know that his favorite civilization is British, of course, and I don't think that's a terrible pick on this map. You know, Arkansas is pretty plentiful in terms of hunts, although you have to do a really good job of herding them. Answer that can be kind of scary, but even still, you know, the longbowman pike, dragoon composition can be pretty tough for Sioux to break once you've gotten a decent mass. But seems like GiveUAnxiety's choice for the counter civilization is going to be India. India versus Sioux, a very how should I say? At the very least, it's an uncommon matchup. And I would say it's kind of a strange one. Although, how it tends to play out, I'm not entirely sure. I think a lot of times Sioux wants to get to Fortress, obviously. And India wants to play aggressive, at least early in Age 2. So we'll have to see what GiveUAnxiety's elected strategy is here. Maybe he goes for something like a 12 Sepoy rush back King Onage. The old reversal. Arkansas, like I mentioned, it's pretty plentiful in terms of hunts as long as you're good at herding. I do want to check the hunts just to make sure. Good for both players. You see 2 hunts and base for both, 1 hurtable, hunts and base, 1 hurtable. And then you kind of have to extend out elsewhere on the map. I think the extension is maybe a little bit harder for GiveUAnxiety. Not that it matters. I think the hunts, pardon me, yes, the hunts spawned pretty fair. You got the 1 hunt over by the trade post for both players. And then there's 1 kind of floating towards mid-map over here. And then there's 1 at the center too, which I suppose in this matchup in particular is going to usually be claimed by the Indian player. There you go, looking at the coin mines. Seems alright. Quite forward for GiveUAnxiety, the second mine, but a very good early first mine. Instead for GiveUAnxiety, his is a little bit forward, but again, with how I would figure this matchup plays out, generally India games with a forward aggro. This silver mine is not in a terrible position, a game-breaking position. GiveUAnxiety here. I don't think he's really going to be pressured off of it very often, whereas GiveUAnxiety gets this one in the back. It's a little bit easier for him to stay gathering it and keep his villagers safe under the protection of the town center. Let's look at the scouting patterns. Sioux going up north, scouting out. It's along here, and what was this? We see a coureur de bois picked up already for GiveUAnxiety, going for that right off the bat. Starting to herd in this hunt over by the northern ridge. And then 80 XP picked up, a Brahmin over here for GiveUAnxiety, picking up little coins around the map. A lot of coin, actually. 120 plus 90, 210 coin. That is enough for almost a full batch of Gurkhas and a little more than 5 sepoys, a full batch of sepoys. Oh my gosh! Oh, poor GiveUAnxiety, taking this a little bit too early. Should have waited until he got that Explorer, that second Explorer in with him. Now gonna start attacking that with his 1 healthy Explorer. Oh, poor GiveUAnxiety, gonna lose that Explorer. It's not the biggest deal because, it's still kind of early in age 2. There's gonna be plenty of time for that Brahmin to heal back up. And then, once GiveUAnxiety has established his aggro fort over here, he's gonna have some time to heal up with both of his Brahmin. We do see something coming. What was that? Howling Wolfpaw, thank you for the subscription to ESOC. A lot of emotes on the way. We got new emotes. I think we have 11 slots at the moment, pretty close to 12. Subscribing is a really great way to support ESOC. And Wolfpaw, I definitely appreciate that. And Kanoosh, thank you for your subscription as well. Was that perhaps a gift sub? Let's take a look at the Twitch chat. In fact, we're going to have quite a few of those coming in. Zeely Flower, thank you very much for the 5 gift donations to Queen, Kukje, Dr. Bier. Pardon me for my lack of knowledge of Dutch pronunciation, and Savokyaf. You also were gifted that subscription. Thank you, Zeely, for those gift subs. Back to the game, we see a defensive Carnimata 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Villagers tasked to that. About the same time as GiveUAnxiety aged up in the first game. Going to be aging up a lot faster, though, with 2 more villagers tasked to it, GiveUAnxiety, but going for a very economic defensive playstyle. GiveUAnxiety just choosing to heal up with his explorers over here. Keep both of them close together. They're nice and friendly. Good buddies. Swami, Virginanda, and Kanakadasa. What else has happened? GiveUAnxiety going for his classic Native American warrior. Definitely a treasure that he always prioritizes as soon as he finds it. He loves getting those native treasures and using that to harass in early age 2. 70 food also found for GiveUAnxiety. That was the treasure he died fighting for. And now with his fully healed up Brahmin. In the meanwhile, though, GiveUAnxiety got a trading post and using his scouts around the mid-map to see what, if GiveUAnxiety is up to any aggressive play. Us, the viewers, a pretty good age up time, I'd say, for the Indian player. Going to hit up at around 44 minutes, 45 seconds. But GiveUAnxiety is definitely aware that the Sioux player has not opted for any aggression. Pardon me, the Indian player has not opted for any aggression. First card, 4 Axe Riders for the Sioux player. Stable, Corral, a TP, I'll mark it. Trading post also coming up for GiveUAnxiety. A little bit late, 5 minutes is kind of late for India, but Instead, GiveUA chose to get the market up early, now getting what's it called? Civil Servants, the 5% to all resources upgrade for Asian civilizations, and a Caravanserai coming up for GiveUAnxiety, although going to be pressured by an early 4 Axe Riders coming into GiveUAnxiety's base. A classic first shipment by the Sioux player, you know, King Yonage, a very well-versed Sioux player on RE Quick Search, one of his main civilizations along with India. The first 2 civs that he's played so far in this series. Looking to get some wins with his strongest civilizations off the bat, playing a classic style. In fact, it seems like it's going to be a no eco so far FF. 4 Axe Riders putting on the early pressure, delaying this Caravanserai, but it does seem like it's going to go up. In the meanwhile, losing 2 Axe Riders, reinforced by 4 Axe Riders trained. King 700 coin, distributing to age up and continuing the pressure in GiveUAnxiety's base. Look at the units in queue. You see some Zambrax in queue for GiveUAnxiety, but not a lot of coins, so he's not going to get a full batch out, I don't think. It's got enough for 2 more of those, but it's not going to be enough. Like I mentioned, it might be enough to ward off all these Axe Riders, considering, you know, how many have died to the town center fire. But right now, I would really use the town center to focus fire. Good job by GiveUA. Good catch. And he's going to kill down the Sioux War Chief, just as the Sioux is gearing up to age. But 600 wood, first card by GiveUA, and I don't think that's actually a great card for India to send. Maybe it's not the greediest card, which might be good in this particular matchup, you know, where you want to kind of expedite things as much as possible so that you can get up safely. 600 wood is going to be better than the, foreign logging card in terms of doing that. So it could end up being quite good, but it's definitely the less greedy play. Consider if King Yonage were to send, you know, something like the Spice Trade card, which has been buffed on ESOC Patch, if I'm not mistaken, actually. It's actually Great Hunter that was buffed, and not Spice Trade, only having a Spice Trade in deck, which hasn't been buffed. A little bit of a mishap by King Yonage, but that's alright. If King Yonage were to send a card like that, he would be at a definite economic advantage compared to GiveUAnxiety, who hasn't sent, basically, you know, foreign logging, which is a villager shipment equivalent. GiveUAnxiety sending 600 wood. Gonna help him stabilize, but again, not a lot of Zambrax on the field here. A 5 Bow Riders trained. It doesn't seem like King Yonage is actually gearing up to age, like I had mentioned. Taking a look at his base, 5 more Bow Riders to reinforce. Attack damage coming in for King Yonage's cavalry. Again, putting on the pressure. Let's look at the units lost. See how many villagers died, because I haven't kept count. 5 villagers dead for GiveUAnxiety. That is not a small number, and again, you know, I mean, these economic unit populations are relatively even. It is to the favor of GiveUAnxiety, kind of just a standard thing with this matchup, but killing 5 villagers, basically killing one of the not the age up, but the civilization bonuses of India, where they get 1 free villager with every shipment, basically negating that. More Bow Riders trained, no intentions of going up from King Yonage. Just continuing the production, Bow Rider production. Continuing to harass, reviving his Explorer. And these Bow Riders are going to perform really, really well against the Zambrax. Look at that, 1 down, 2 down. There we go. More popping, but I don't know if it's really going to be enough. Although with Town Center Fire, it definitely could prove. Zambrax might get some shots in on the Sioux War Chief. Focusing down the Sioux War Chief now. The Sioux War Chief getting a little bit caught. That thing is definitely going to go down. There you go. But again, these Zambrax have pretty low range damage compared to the Bow Riders, and they also have a lower rate of fire and the same range, so they really do not match up that well, especially if GiveUAnxiety is not outmassing the Sioux player. However, still, you know, town center damage doing good enough. I think it's only 3 shots from the town center to take down 1 Bow Rider. Not great resource value, but just good enough to keep GiveUAnxiety afloat so far. Again, neither player taking the economic lead. Still pretty balanced, although military units on the field goes to the advantage of King Yonage. However, foreign logging now coming in for GiveUAnxiety. Going to put him at the economic advantage. King Onage also just beginning to redistribute his villagers to a coin. Oh, whoa! A fire pit coming out for King Onage. A good call, I think, to revive the Sioux Explorer. But like I was saying, no intentions of going up by GiveUAnxiety. And you know, it is kind of something that India does struggle with in H2, is dealing with these bow riders. You know, they can kind of go toe-to-toe with the Zambraks, but they have to micro very, very carefully. And if you're not the utmost careful, you can end up losing a lot of villagers. You know, a lot of early pressure from King Onage. But GiveUAnxiety at a significant economic disadvantage. At least a disadvantage compared to where he should have been had he not lost any villagers. And again, 4 villagers being sent by King Onage. Again, going to even up these economies, and with the Sioux player, the stronger units, double-carded bow riders. Hurtling towards the base of the Indian player. So, maybe not going for the best decision. Okay, I like this. So King Onage didn't actually go for the trading post. I was a little bit afraid that he was going to siege this, and this is going to be massive. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 villages dead. 3 in 1 sway. Really good picks by King Onage, and in fact, I think he's going to get even more villagers. Look at that. At least 10 here, all getting blocked off. 1, 2. I don't think a single one is going to make it to the just 2 getting saved there so much. You know, I thought GiveUAnxiety was in a really good position. I like this from King Onage. Again, just hurtling towards the base of the India player. Getting a really good timing. GiveUAnxiety was trying to age up, and, you know, if King Onage had done something not smart, which would have been sieging the trading post, which I was a little bit faked out, you know, just going towards this direction, that would have been really bad because it would have given GiveUAnxiety a lot of time just to safely get up to the Fortress Age. But good job by King Onage. Not great map awareness by GiveUAnxiety, or getting a little bit cocky here. Losing the barracks. Losing, what? 12 villagers! Or maybe even, yeah, that was 12 villagers. That's so big, and even getting a little bit idled in his town center. A lot of villagers being penned up. Not going to be able to mass the units he wants. Losing the stable. Going to age up with the Charminar, which is going to give him a Mahout Lancer, which is going to do nothing against these bow riders. King Onage, like I said, you know, surprising me from the get, you know, not committing at all to Fortress, just going to keep it age 2 spice trade coming in, boosting his economy. A much stronger economy than the Indian player at this point. Fully gathering out all the map with not a care in the world, but GiveUAnxiety under a lot of pressure here. Now losing some houses. 35 out of 50 population, going to be 35 out of 40. I mean, he's going to lose the Mahout here, but he would be overpopped and not able to immediately send a shipment as soon as he's up. GiveUAnxiety is in a very, very tough position. Look at this. He does get up now, but what's he going to be able to do? He can't send a shipment. He's got some Zambraks, but he can't upgrade them. GiveUAnxiety is in a very difficult position now, losing the Mahout. Definitely not going to be able to run away from these Sioux cavalry units. And, you know, as much as I can commend GiveUAnxiety for keeping his spirits up and staying in the game, giving it every possible opportunity he can. Maybe King Onage will slip up. This game is looking commandingly in the favor of the Sioux, and I don't really see a way back for the Indian player. I mean, maybe he can send 7 Yarumi, and maybe King Onage can look at his phone for 15 seconds. But even then, you know, I don't think there's going to be the miracle pot that GiveUAnxiety needs. And now at a significant economic disadvantage, what's he really going to be able to do? We do see 1 stable. I'd like to see a 2nd stable come out for GiveUAnxiety. Sorry, pardon me, King Onage. He is aging up now. Not a bad decision. You know, he knows that he did a lot of damage, so he's going to even out the only possible way he could lose, which is by a tech disadvantage and, you know, strong Fortress Age unit pop by GiveUAnxiety. First shipment in age 2 going to be 8 Gurkhas for GiveUAnxiety, but not close to another shipment, which is what he would really be gunning for at the moment. No military buildings. Popped as well. Gonna need a lot of wood in order to make up for that. Get a stable on the field, maybe a Zambarak upgrade, but I don't think even like a 9 Zambarak shipment is going to be able to bring him back. And I think if you send something like 7 Yarumi, which, you know, those are great units overall, he's not going to have the ranged backing he needs to be able to deal with the strength of the Sioux cavalry. In fact, I don't even think Cometk really needs to send like a unit shipment at this point. You know, he could send something like 9 Wakina or 5 rifle riders for whatever reason, maybe 3 dogs, but I think cavalry combat might just be the best shipment he could send at the moment. I just continue training a lot of powerful units with his very strong economy at this point, strong comparatively at the very least. Going for the engage now, cavalry combat in, getting into melee with, oh, the redcoats, the stomp. Not terrible by GiveUAnxiety. Really not a terrible engagement. I'm not quite sure how this will go. I think the Sioux units are way stronger, but now losing the Explorer. Still 1 Explorer alive for Cometk. And this is looking like a really good trade for GiveUAnxiety. I don't know if it's just what he needed, but it's definitely a start to coming back in this game. Taking out all of the Sioux units. Even a Mensabdar Zambarak coming in here. Disciplined Zambarak also having been researched. And these Zambaraks are looking pretty keen, pretty good. Here's the reinforced by Cometk, a big batch of bow riders, but is it going to be enough? I think GiveUAnxiety might be pushing his luck a little bit. Taking down a good volley there, but you know he's just going to get beat by the superior rate of fire of these bow riders if he stays in here. Now the Explorer being revived, and this is big. 8 Wakinas. There you go, GiveUAnxiety. He was looking in a commanding position, at least a commanding position to come back in this game, but now getting cleaned up, pushing his luck. I don't like that push, you know. As soon as he was over here and he killed those 2 bow riders in that first volley, that was the single. GiveUAnxiety had to get out. You know, it was just a matter of time before, you know, another batch of units popped out for the Sioux player, or like we saw there, you know, just great DPS from these bow riders. Triple carded bow riders, whereas these Sepoys, pardon me, the Zambaraks, have no upgrades for themselves. And now, while it was looking a little bit even, it's still looking to be in the favor of Cometk. Now gathering on berries, but that's kind of all right because he's got spice trade sent, so those berries are going to be gathering a little bit faster than Indian berries if GiveUAnxiety were to gather on those. GiveUAnxiety still at an economic disadvantage, having lost so many villagers in the transition to the Fortress Age. And a full HP, basically a full HP Explorer for Cometk, doing a good job of keeping some villagers on the pit to revive that War Chief. Cometk still in a solid position to leverage his early advantage in Fortress. Close out the game. We can look at the military unit populations. GiveUAnxiety struggling to remass, sending now 9 Sepoys, but they're not even veteran upgraded. These are just all very, very weak units. He can't send something like East India Company to buff his Sepoys and his Gurkhas because it's just too risky. His mass is too low. His economy is too weak to sustain decent production. You know, like I was calling earlier, it does seem like GiveUAnxiety pushed his luck a little bit too much. While he took a really great trade, you know, when both players were in Fortress Age. He just went in too far and lost everything. And now 3 dog soldiers on the field. Those are going to do well against all, not all, but basically a lot of the units that GiveUAnxiety has on the field. Those are going to do well against the unupgraded Sepoys and the Gurkhas. And they're so tanky, it's going to be difficult for these Zambaraks to focus fire them down. Oh, even the dog soldier, big button timing. And it's looking like 6 dog soldiers having been popped from that button. 18 minutes. Like I said, I think this is going to close it out for Cometk. You can look at the score difference. Cometk now sitting at basically, what? At least a 40% advantage in terms of just score. And then consider the fact that his units are triple carded cavalry from Sioux. And these Indian units have absolutely no upgrades besides veterancy. And now, running out of the coin mine, a lot of villagers idle. It's going to be very difficult for GiveUAnxiety to micro this. Oh, just look at the carnage of these Sioux dog soldiers. Again, even with a decent focus fire, it's not going to be enough. These dog soldiers took so much hit points. 852. Everything getting cleaned up. And there we have it, up 2-0, match point. Now in play for King Onage. Again, a best of 5, so one more game. King Onage will move on to the Advanced Division Round 2 against future opponent Perez. GiveUAnxiety looking in a very tough position to bring it back this game, but he does have one solace in that King Onage has used both of his main civilizations, India and Sioux, in order to create this lead for himself. King Onage will not be able to play neither India or Sioux in Game 3 or for the rest of the series because he has already won with them. Per the civilization rules, they are out of the contention for him. Looking at the post-game, again, I think GiveUAnxiety, here was where it fell to pieces. And I don't think much more needs to be said about that. Although he did take a really good engagement in early Fortress Age, at least early Fortress 4 when King Onage was hitting up. You know, he took a really solid engagement, evened out the military populations. I started to push in, but that wasn't the right call. And at that moment, 9 Wood King is popped. A batch of bow riders reinforced the dwindled mass from King Onage. And also the War Chief had popped on the War Chief dance. And that was enough to snare the remaining India units that were pushing into the Sioux base, clean up basically everything. And from there, King Onage leveraged the economic advantage that he established himself in the middle of the game and cleaned it out with Dog Soldier, Big Button Pop. So like I said, we're going into match point on ESOC Colorado. Seems like King Onage has already locked his counter civilization, which is going to be France. So I think I might see what the issue might have been with, I understand. It's a little bit off-center. My entire game capture is, there you go. It should be fixed. I'm not sure how that arose, but I apologize for that. I've noticed it now. Thank you to H-Lung for pointing that out for me. And I do apologize for the first 2 games in that series being a little bit off-center, but I think we had most of the core information, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Seems like Germany gonna be the counter civilization for GiveUAnxiety here. A pretty even matchup by most pro players' estimation. I do want to shout out some of the folks who have donated to the ESOC Winter Championship so far. Yokin 300, Profection, Look Tom, and Zeely Flower. Especially Zeely Flower, who has also gifted a lot of folks tuning in with subscriptions, a lot over the past 3 weeks. Thank you very much. Thank you guys very much for supporting the channel, ESOC in general, and the future events that we can host. And if you are enjoying the content, GiveUAnxiety versus King Onage, and you want to support the players as well as ESOC in general and our future events, donating is a great way to do so, but also subscribing is a nice way to get involved in the community and support ESOC. You'll also get a lot of subscriber emotes and a nice little badge in the name of by the side of your name in Twitch chat. Subscribing is a really great way to support the channel as well. Colorado, one of my favorite maps actually. I think in initial versions of the map, I wasn't a terrible fan of it because the trade route in particularly looked very blocky and awkward, but now that's been fixed and it's nice and smooth and the map is absolutely stunning and gorgeous. And another great aspect of ESOC Colorado is that the hunts always spawn in the same places. I think, least. We have one hunt over here, very hurtable for GiveUAnxiety at this point. And the starting hunt, and a hunt over here by this coin mine, and one coin mine over by this south trading post, and the north trading post, and the herd, and the coin mine, and the other herd, and the other coin mine. A little bit harder to extend for King Ownage, it seems like. Although that seems like it just seems like it seems. It doesn't seem like the distance is that much different. Maybe a little bit less favorable for King Ownage. Although a little bit more favorable of a starting coin mine. No, they're both even. I think the hunts are okay. And then this bighorn sheep that spawns so close to GiveUAnxiety's town center is starting to drift away back to where it normally would spawn. But again, like I said, Colorado always spawns with symmetrical resources, so it's a very easygoing map, at least to be a caster on. For players, although it can be quite a difficult map, a lot of players make use of this very inventive trading post line, especially with the recent EP change where you can build trading posts as close to your opponent's TC as you'd like. The town center obstruction radius doesn't affect them anymore. So even on Colorado, where normally on RE Patch you wouldn't be able to build this one because it's too close to your opponent's town center, now on ESOC Patch you're able to do that. You're able to get a 4 TP stagecoach if you so choose. You know what's going on the map, and there you go. Classic native warrior pick by King Ownage. He will always prioritize picking that up. And a nice 110 coin treasure for him as well. GiveUAnxiety, on the other hand, starting to creep a 90 food treasure, going to be quite good. Also picking up 120 XP. Nice treasures for both players so far. King Ownage gearing up towards the middle of the map, although this treasure, 2 grizzlies for 30% HP, probably not priority in early age 2. Sorry, early, in the early game of Age of Empires 3 for most civilizations. Not worth the investment. And similarly, 2 grizzly bears for 1 mature bear. That bear is quite strong, but grizzly bears are quite hard to take down, so King Ownage going to choose to botch going for that treasure at the moment. Also, 2 cougars for a mature cougar kit. Gonna prioritize that, but now getting line of sight of this 90 coin treasure, looking to steal that from GiveUAnxiety. GiveUAnxiety recognizing that he's not going to be able to contest that, especially with that Nootka club in there for King Ownage. And oh, a little bit cheeky, but going to get scattered out. King Ownage is not a fool. Definitely going to secure this 90 coin treasure for himself and not give GiveUAnxiety any breathing room to do anything sneaky, basically. Looking pretty good. I think the age 1 has slightly gone to the favor of King Ownage. He's in a better position to scout out what his opponent is doing in transition to Colonial Age. GiveUAnxiety is kind of penned up in his base with a low HP Explorer. Gonna lose a treasure now. Gonna try to build a trade post. Actually, I think if King Ownage were keen, he kind of would have realized that that was going to be built. Also building it with a settler. I'm gonna task her back to wood. Not that the scouting units of GiveUAnxiety, King Ownage could have done too much, considering the nerf to Age 1 native warriors on the ESOC patch. But still, would have been good to at least have gotten line of sight of that trade post being built, which I don't think King Ownage did. But still getting the 90 coin for himself, and penning up GiveUAnxiety's Explorer in his base. Gonna restrict the German players' information on what King Ownage is doing. So just some explorative posturing by King Ownage. He's not going to be too active with his explorers against particularly Germany in early colonial age, knowing that the risk of 2 Yuglins popping out from the German player's initial shipment is liable to kill whatever scouting units he might have in their base. So a little sloppy, going to get snared there by the explorer. I'm not sure if the native scout will be able to escape. And now 2 Yulins coming out, definitely going to be able to kill out the native scout. So like I was saying, King being wise at least with his Explorer and his Nootka Scout, but not making the best use of that. Pardon me, not not playing the most aggressive with his Explorer and Native Warrior, but also not making the best use of that Native Scout. They're going to get cleaned up pretty early. At the shipments, seems like both players going for a passive villager start, stable up for King, and a batch of 5 Hussars popping out at 550. Pretty good time. Although, pretty keen. Not going to want to challenge that. GiveUAnxiety. Probably would have lost the 2 Yulins to trade that off for 1 career. Probably not a great trade. Although I certainly think GiveUAnxiety probably would have been able to get at least 1 career there. Not that that would be the right play. 5 Yulins also trained for the German player, and another shipment of resource crates coming in for GiveUAnxiety, and that makes 9 Yulins on the field, which might begin to siege down this trading post of King. King also seems like gearing up to get a second trading post for himself. Actually, GiveUAnxiety doing likewise. Both players getting 2 DPs for themselves. The safer trade posts, ones closest to their bases respectively. Oh, but not so great hurting by King. Gonna lose 1, at least 1 coureur de bois, and actually choosing to take the engagement here. It seems like however many Yulin that was, 11 on 7, 11 on 6 now, 8 on 6, but with the town center fire there as well, it seems like the Huss gonna do well. Minutemen a little bit late, but gonna clean up every single Yulin here, it seems. Oh, just barely getting out of snare. Oh, not so good by GiveUAnxiety. I mean, he did kill 5 Hussars there, 6 Hussars actually, but gonna lose 11 Yulins for that, and his Explorer. One good thing, at least one solace there for GiveUAnxiety, is he did scout the 700 coins, so he is aware that King is most likely going to be trying to age himself. GiveUAnxiety actually going to choose to prolong his H2 a little bit more, training another batch of Yulins, getting 2 more with his 700 coin. Gonna go up top. See if he can come from an angle to get another good snare. Again, not so great hurting by King. This bighorn sheep hunt was very exposed, and that led to, well, really only 1 courier going down. It's not the biggest deal. Looking at the recalc, the German player is slightly ahead, but we'll have to also consider the technologies that the players have researched. Seems like bog standard for both. Steel traps and placer mines. Oh, but look at this. 700 food shipped for the French player, a barracks on the field, and 3 musketeers trained. A little bit peculiar by King, but I figure maybe that was just an insurance policy if the German player chose to commit to age 2 a little bit longer. We do have the information as viewers that GiveUAnxiety trained 4 more Yulins, so he kind of wanted to play it a little bit safe by extending his colonial age a little bit longer, so that he wouldn't get caught by like a big reversal where there's a 5 Huss batch coming out for King, and then King right clicks GiveUAnxiety's base and pens up 20 villagers in the town center. Just an insurance policy for both players, training a few more units with which to hold if their opponents do something a little bit cheeky. Both playing it cautious for the day. However, if there were one player who would take better advantage from playing cautious, I would say it's probably the French player. In this matchup, I think that the German player has to be the one to make the moves, considering that over time, the German units will get less and less strong comparatively to the French ones. The way German wins most matchups is they leverage their advantage in early fortress with very powerful unit shipments. And I think if GiveUAnxiety wants to come out ahead here, he's going to have to play less than cautious and make some moves. And we see, again, not so great hurting from King-Onage. One courier down, looking like a fresh 2. Not going to get away with the second one. Losing 1 Yulin. 1 Yulin for 1 courier is a pretty good trade overall. And also idling a lot of these courier de bois for a significant amount of time. King-Onage choosing to redistribute them over to coin and send out some of these couriers that were gathering coin towards the north of the map over to this somewhat secure hunt. GiveUAnxiety now taking the time to siege down the forward trading post of King-Onage. I like that. Gonna take out the line of sight, which is probably the most important aspect of sieging down this trading post. Again, great use of the Explorer from GiveUAnxiety. I think he's done that pretty well in all of the games here. Just making constant use of his Explorer and keeping it away from his units and, getting a lot of scouting information. King-Onage now making smart use of what would otherwise usually basically be idle military. Popping those over by his exposed hunts. Oh, okay, but the coin mine is out, so King-Onage isn't going to get caught out of place with his curs mining in the face of a Ulan raid. Oh, and I forgot to update the score. I do apologize for that. It is up 2-0. King-Onage leading this series. Counter civilization to GiveUAnxiety. He chose German against the French lock of King-Onage. 7 skirmishers actually. Oh, 7 skirmishers by the German player, pardon me. But 3 cuirassiers for King-Onage. Gonna bolster his cavalry mass. I would have been a little bit worried if King-Onage had sent 7 skirms instead of something like 3 couriers. I think the 3 couriers are a good call because that's gonna make it easier for King-Onage to hold the impending Yulin mass from the German player. One way to lose as French is to, get caught out by Yulins with not enough anti-cavalry, and then losing too much of your ranged mass, not having enough anti-cavalry from the get, and just losing a lot of momentum that way. We're going to see the engagements. Yulins on the skirmishers, but 5 cuirassiers getting on those Yulins as well. Going to put in some good damage. Dragoons also on the Ulans. But a lot of cuirassiers lost to this significant war wagon mass from the German player. Not a lot of skirmishers left for the French player. So he's going to have a hard time focus firing down these war wagons. While these war wagons are doing a really good job to kill off all of the cavalry from the French player. Now we can see a lot of low HP war wagons. We're going to get pulled back. And plenty of skirms here to leverage an advantage for GiveUAnxiety. And I think now would be a great time for a 9 Yulin shipment for GiveUAnxiety. Considering basically, ooh, there we go. A clean GG. That'll be the first point on the board for GiveUAnxiety. That it's not over yet. I think in this game, I think what really kind of set King-Onage behind was just the hurting. A lot of times, oof, you can even see the raid going up here. Nice job by GiveUA. But basically because the hunt, when there was the engagement over here, the 11 Yulins on the, I think, 8 Hussars, there were a lot of exposed courier de bois. Like King-Onage didn't end up losing 1 and then getting the rest built up. And that did kind of swing the cavalry fight in his favor, but overall I think losing a lot of villager seconds here in a matchup where you have to assemble the strongest army possible to hold what the German player is going to field in early fortress. And then this next hunt, just being so exposed, losing so many villager seconds there when the German player chose to push on it, even losing another courier. always at a slight economic disadvantage, it seemed like, for King Onage. Not being able to pull together enough units to take a good engagement in mid-fortress, give you anxiety getting a really good trade, and from this point on, King Onage is quite aware that there's not a lot he can do. So that'll be the first point on the board for Give You Anxiety. Still at a disadvantage, of course. We are one win away from King Onage taking the series and moving on to the Advanced Division Round 2. Just waiting for the players to boot up. Seems like Give You Anxiety might be taking a little bit of a break. We hop into the next game. Something I forgot to mention was that King Onage did also send 700 food in Colonial Age to help him get up to the next stage. Kind of just compensating for the poor herding that he had done, which kind of made it a lot more difficult for him to get the position he needed to stabilize in that game. It's not too bad with 2 trading posts, and it probably was the call that he needed. But overall, I think the herding situation was kind of lost it for King Onage, and even though 700 food was a good call to make up for that, I think it was just a position you should never be in as France, having to send 700 food in order to get up to Fortress Age safely against a German player. Maybe not why he lost it, but kind of a death symbol. Writing on the wall. A little bit of a break here. It could also be a strategic break for Give You Anxiety to take his leave before opening the lobby and before locking his civilization, so as to provide his opponent the least amount of time with which to formulate a strategy to play against. I'm not sure if Give You Anxiety is receiving some coaching in the background in the downtime. Oh, what? I guess I just missed it. It was titled 1v1, and I was really... I thought that was something else. I guess I'm the noob here. That was actually hosted for 4 minutes. But why was it titled 1v1? It's a tournament match. I don't get it. A feature so graciously implemented by Eagle Mutt. It'll be Give You Anxiety's lock, though. First lock this series from GiveUA. Or figure, especially on Hudson Bay's summer version, he would want to play the British And that might be his lock. From King Onage, I think the counter pick I would expect him to play is Aztec. I'm not entirely sure how much Aztec play King Onage does in Supremacy, but King Onage actually, for the longest time, basically I think fully 2013 to maybe early 2016, King Onage was considered the #1 treaty player, and a lot of the time he played India and Aztec. So he should be very, very familiar with those civilizations. Like we saw game 1, King Onage knew how to play India, even though he didn't get the best trades with his units. Kind of just knew what his win condition was with India, and did a good job playing that way, and also did a great job microing in H3, or just taking intelligent engagements that ended up evening up the military disadvantage he was at. So it seems like French actually locked for GiveUAnxiety. King Onage will have the chance to play French again, but there you go, the agnostic Aztec pick. I think generally, quite generally, Aztec isn't a great counter civilization to France. I think this is quite a France-favored matchup, considering just the bulkiness of Coureur de Bois, the difficulty it can be to force a French player to garrison with how strong their Coureur de Bois are and how well they perform against all of the Aztec H2 units, Misfalten, Coyote Runners, and Puma Spearmen. So a defense by the French is pretty easy, usually pretty easy to manage, although you can never count your chickens before they hatch. Well, I say it should be easy. In the reality, it's not always hard to make it a reality, I guess. I'm going to be very keen to see what King Onage's deck is going to be. Like I said, he's kind of an RE quick search player, so he kind of plays like an old metagame style. I don't think he's going to go for any cheeky water plays. I think it's just too risky and not really something that King Onage is familiar with. But I really, really would like to see a card like 3 Trading Posts in King Onage's deck. I think that's a very, very powerful card and basically a win condition for the Aztec nowadays. I think 3 Trading Post cards and getting a safe Stagecoach can definitely put you at a huge economic lead if you're able to get that off safely. And I think a lot of times as Aztec, you can get away with that. Going in for early H2 pressure and then following it up with the 3 TP shipment, getting Stagecoach in the back, massing up. And especially with the buffed 6 Coyote card as a failsafe and insurance policy. I think it's a really strong strategy as Aztec in the current metagame. Like I said, King Onage, not the most up-to-date. A player who has taken several hiatuses throughout the years. GiveUAnxiety a little bit more up-to-date, a lot more active than King Onage. But also set in his ways, He does have a particular style. Early Trading Post for the French player. Looking at the treasures. Let's also take a look at the hunts. Never too late to call the hunts. We see 1, 2 good hunts for GUA, but nothing at the top. 4 moose for both players. No coin mine at the top, so I think that's going to be a rehost. We see 1, 2, the Aztec player. A little bit late on that, but I do have to apologize to both players. I was a little bit late. I should have checked it a little bit earlier, but definitely do not want to continue to play out this match with a missing coin mine for 1 player. You can see there is GiveUAnxiety's 2 mines. Definitely would not recommend playing it out. I understand it might be a little frustrating since I was so late on that. Although not too much has happened in the game so far. 100 food and some coin for King Onage. Really is never too late to call a map imbalance like this. There you go. GiveUAnxiety out. Yeah, look at that. I mean, there's 2 mines for King Onage, 2 mines for GiveUA, and then nothing at the top. I don't know why you wouldn't, frankly. I guess it's because he was getting some good DPS in on the Aztec Explorer, but I have no idea why you would not recall that. Did I miss something? There's definitely not a coin mine there, but we'll stop dwelling on that. My mistake, should have been a little bit earlier, but again, like I said, never too late to call it. You always want to ensure map balance for both players. And that, unfortunately, was not a balanced map. But we'll jump into the actual Game 4 between GiveUAnxiety and King Onage. Best of 5 series, part of the ESOC Winter Championship 2020. It's part of the Advanced Division Round 1. Winner of this match will move on to face Perez, and currently on match point is King Onage II. The favored player in this series, we can see Colonel to Lieutenant Colonel. Also, King Onage was a Pro Division qualifier. GiveUAnxiety making his way up from the Advanced Division qualifiers, commanding victory over Stitch 3-0 in that series. Although, my mistake again. I should have caught that. We should have played on the event or the summer version, playing on the winter there. Wouldn't have been a big deal to play it out, to be honest. But yeah, it's much preferred to play the summer version just for the expectations and the practice, just to make it easier for players to practice on a consistent version of the map. But I definitely should have caught that. That's the caster's fault, not the players. Nothing to be ashamed of there. Do have to keep track of the number of recorded games. I think we're on record game number 6, despite only being in game 4 here. But like I said, ESOC Winter Championship 2020, Advanced Division Round 1, GiveUAnxiety versus King Onage II. King Onage II, the favored player, also leading the series at the moment. On match point, just one more victory to earn him a slot in round 2 of the tournament. And first things first, we're going to want to look at the hunts. I see nothing at the top. Oh my god. Yeah, right away. Cannot allow that. That is just no bueno. At least we got it at the beginning there. So I didn't waste the time of the players. But even if I had, would always want to rehost that, like I said. Map imbalance takes precedence, even if it were 5 or 6 minutes into the game. Always want to ensure. Just teasing a little bit. Although I'm the one to blame for one, wasting a little bit of the time of the players in game 1, and 2, forgetting to check if summer was checked as the map variant in game 2 of the Hudson Bay spawns. But going into our 4th spawn here, ESOC Winter Championship 2020 match point series, King Onage up 2-1 against GiveUAnxiety, the underdog player in this series. Looking at the hunts, thankfully the top mines spawned for both players. Top hunt spawned. We've got one hunt here, one extended hunt for King Onage. Good hunts for, really good hunts for GiveUA. Might be something missing. We've got 6 mooses here. Getting that one. Or here. Looks a little bit better for... Okay. Unfortunately, King Onage, it does seem like he's missing a hunt. We see 6. I mean, it's 3 moose, but even then, like, it's pretty imbalanced. I know it's quite annoying, but we do really want to get this fair. You can see there's a very easy extension for GiveUAnxiety here within a town such as length for this next hunt, whereas King Onage's, I mean, it might drift, but it's quite far. And in addition to that, King Onage is missing some moose. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, and like 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 for GiveUAnxiety. And that does equate to a 1,500 food difference. Now, in this matchup, Aztec is usually playing aggressive, but like I mentioned, you definitely want to get it right. I mean, maybe this wasn't so unfavorable for King Onage. I mean, he's still going to be able to establish control on that with a blockhouse, but even a 1,500 food difference, you know, I just don't want to allow that, considering how easy it was for King Onage, or pardon me, GiveUAnxiety to get both of those hunts under his town center and then extend for this one, and then of course he has the one at the top if he needs it. That's a really great position to be in for GUA, especially with the back mine. Although, I mean, it's not about where it spawns, it's about what spawns. And, you know, I think King Onage was missing some hunts there, just a little bit, but... So this is the 7th game, 5th spawn, no, it's the 8th maybe, so we might need to pull the recorded games after this pretty soon. Either way, we got the summer version. GiveUAnxiety versus King Onage, part of the ESOC Winter Championship 2020. Advanced Division Round 1. Winner of this match plays against Perez, and currently leading the series, King Onage, the favored player, a Pro Division qualifier, up 2-1 against GiveUAnxiety. Yeah. All right. So we're going to play it out. The most unfortunate thing I think about that is that King Onage is now aware that GUA is missing a top hunt, but at the end of the day, he was informed, so it is his decision. If he doesn't want to rehost, that's up to him. If it does come down to the 3rd mine, again, like I said, that's out of my hands. GiveUAnxiety. Beginning to creep what is a 90 food treasure. King Onage, a modest start, it seems, not getting any treasures for himself. Just starting to get queued, but there we go. The King Onage Classic, it's going to be the Native Warrior. That's definitely something King Onage is going to get started right away on. On the Fog of War. Good scouting by GUA so far. You know, the Native Scout looping around, getting line of sight of all these treasures at mid-map. Also going to come down towards the coast and see what's up over there too. 90 coin in the scopes for GUA, but first off is a trading post. King Onage, some nice herding. I like this, getting that moose right directly under the town center. Not going to be a single villager second lost. All those cute villagers. Also, GUA getting line of sight. Some ADXP to the north here. Oh, you know what? King Onage actually botching the native scout for the time being. Instead, going to go for 75 food treasure. But I think, as I was mentioning earlier, Advanced Division Round 1. Winner of this match plays against Perez in the next round. Now, Perez definitely a player who surprised quite a few of us by having a very, very close series against top seed Kanushalbar in the Pro Division round of 16. Unfortunately, he was knocked out. Like I said, a very close series, but that's a top seed. Kanushalbar is a very, very powerful player, and one of these two will be moving on to the round 2, the Advanced Division, to play against Perez. Leading the series is King Onage 2-0, having won the first 2 games with India and Sioux. GiveUAnxiety making up for it on Colorado, bringing a win home with Germany. And then GiveUAnxiety's locked civilization on Hudson Bay ended up being France. King Onage's counter pick, Aztec, which is a kind of a peculiar counter pick considering I think most players would say this is a France favored matchup. Still, Aztec, one of King Onage's best civilizations, one that he is most familiar with, that he has extensive experience with in both treaty and supremacy. King Onage formerly being one of the best treaty players from basically 2013 to I think early 2016 maybe, before taking a hiatus and being dethroned by Conqueror 999. GiveUAnxiety. I like where his explorer's at the moment, getting some scouting done in the base of King Onage. Also, you know, getting the information that it doesn't seem like King Onage is going for any aggressive play so far. Taking a look at the base. Not going to scout out the first shipment. I would like to see GiveUAnxiety stay in base to at least, you know, get the information on what the first shipment is going to be. Maybe he's a little bit tenuous because he feels like there could still be a war hut around the middle of the map that he hasn't scouted yet. But take a look at this. 3 warrior priests, first shipment for King Onage. I feel like if GiveUAnxiety had scouted that, you know, and had the native scout circling around his base at the ring around his base, to ensure that there wasn't a war hut here, that would have been the most perfect scouting pattern. That would have given GiveUAnxiety the most amount of information. I still think GiveUAnxiety is pretty confident that King Onage is going for you know, some economic build order here, but exactly what King is doing, he isn't aware of. That's going to be 3 warrior priests first, but it doesn't seem like a warrior priest boom from our observer's perspective. First shipment in H2 for GiveUAnxiety is 4 careers. Stable build. I think is a good call. You know, I think GiveUAnxiety has comfortably scouted enough of the map that he knows King Onage isn't going for like a 20 pikeman cheese build order. So starting cavalry is a good choice here. Going to be able to put on a little bit of pressure in King Onage's base while he's, you know, leveraging whatever else he wants to. Maybe 700 wood is going to be next. Maybe get a second trading post, some more upgrades, maybe amalgamation. Actually, hasn't gotten steel traps yet, so there you go. The 700 wood coming out. And I think 700 coin is going to be the follow-up shipment for GiveUAnxiety. Just a standard, a safe, semi-fast fortress. 5 hussars. See if there's any more units in queue. Not a single unit in queue. No siree, but a barracks coming down quite forward. A little bit more forward than I would have liked, to be honest, against Aztec, but fine enough because us observers know that there's no aggression coming in for King Onage. 1 war hut built, but no units on the field. But there are some pumas in queue. 4 pumas popping out, and that's definitely going to be good enough to hold whatever GiveUAnxiety is planning to do. Although, going to get some damage in on this explorer. Might take it down, but not before the trade post is going to go up. Gotta be careful, though. He is snared at the moment. Pretty good job by GiveUAnxiety. He did kill the explorer, but, you know, that explorer is going to heal right by the trading post, so that's going to be alive no matter what. Didn't lose the Hussar, but did take a bit of damage, so overall, not a bad trade. I think killing that and getting 100 XP is definitely worth it. And, oh, just barely getting away with the native scout. Not too bad for GUA so far. There were 2 Hussars coming from the north. I don't think they got anything done there. I don't even know if units lost. Just 3 coyotes for King Onage. No villagers lost for King Onage so far, and some coyotes coming out. But 3 coyotes is no match for 3 Hussars. Gonna lose 1 villager here, seems like. Oh, a nice snare by GiveUAnxiety. But there were some good pulls there. Some tricky micro by GiveUAnxiety, but I think it's overall pretty good, although gotta be careful here. The musketeers on the Puma Spearmen, taking down a lot of them, but taking a lot of damage on the Hussars too. But all of the units from King Onage have been picked off. Really good job by GUA. He lost 3 Hussars, but he killed, I think, 4 Pumas and 3 Coyotes. Slightly good trade. And also killed a villager, if I'm not mistaken. Also gonna get some pressure over here. Warriors being trained by the warrior priests at the fire pit. might be enough to hold. And in the back of it, King Onage going to the Fortress Age. Might lose a villager or two. Not actually going to lose any villagers so far. And not a single villager lost for King Onage. Plenty of warriors on the field, town center fire, war hut damage. And I think this pressure by GiveUAnxiety, committing to Age 2, not going up to the Fortress Age, 3 Hussars being shipped. I don't know if it's gonna be enough to bring down the Aztec player. Gonna get a villager now. Might get a second. These villagers quite exposed, but going in the town center now, not getting snared. I mean, 2 villagers down, but 3 villagers down, actually. I don't think it's the worst it could possibly be. We gotta pay quite careful attention, though. Taking a lot of damage on the warrior priests. Still plenty of HP, though, to survive. Plenty of warriors on the field. 10 Mace Walton being shipped by the Aztec player and gonna snipe down every single one of these musketeers. These musketeers are not long for the world. More pikemans coming out from the blockhouse, or sorry, the war hut of the Aztec player, and that's gonna be enough to ward off the cavalry that's impending from GiveUAnxiety. Nice hold by King Onage, and he is at the score advantage at the moment. GiveUAnxiety trying to gear up for the Age, it seems. Not quite, actually. I think he is just distributing to train more units, but I don't think committing to Colonial Age is actually going to get him very far. King Onage about to hit up to Fortress Age, and with that, we'll have to see what politician he went up with. It's going to be 3 Skull Knights. There should be a shipment on the way. It seems like there was 6 population, so I think it's going to be 6 Eagle Runner Knights, the first shipment in Age 3 from the Aztec player. And I think with all that said, King Onage even still runs away with his trading post there. It was never sieged down by GiveUAnxiety. GiveUAnxiety really not having enough infantry here to, I think, put the pressure he wants to put on King Onage. There's plenty of Mace Walton here and plenty of anti-cavalry with these Fortress Age Elite Skull Knights. 400 hit points, 25 attack with 2 splash, 3 times against cavalry. Some Pumas as well as the Aztec Explorer. Now getting the Fire Pit Big Button technology, which grants a ×3 experience bonus from the War Chief's aura. Seems like this is the timing now, though, with 8 Expo Men coming out for GiveUAnxiety, but it's really do or die. He has to get a really nice clean here if he wants to survive in this match. 6 Eagle Runner Knights popping right behind the Mace Walton. Focus fire down on these Hussars. Not many Hussars left. And there you go. A perfect snare around these Musketeers. Everything is going to die for GiveUAnxiety. And like I mentioned, GiveUAnxiety is nowhere near the Fortress Age. Even 3 big button Jaguar Prowl Knights popping from the town center. The town center big button, that is. They popped from the war hut. Great snare, killed off every single Musketeer there. Look at that. 28 dead Musketeers, 19 dead Hussars. That is 7,000 resources. 7,000 resources! Think about that. And King Onage, on the other hand, he's lost 2 Skull Knights, 7 Pumas, 3 Mace, 3 Coyotes. Not a lot. 30 score advantage for King Onage at this stage. King Onage also safely in the Fortress Age. Warrior Priest booming behind that. 10 Coyote Runners popping. Plenty of experience. Gonna get that next shipment out soon, the Aztec player. GiveUAnxiety is nowhere near it, though. And, even elite Coyote Runners coming out. Every single unit of cavalry cleaned up here. And it is looking like dire straits for GiveUAnxiety. I fear there's not much left for him to do. He's at a tech disadvantage. He does have the economic lead, but that's not going to be enough. There are no units left on the field for him. And that's a GG. Well played from GiveUAnxiety. King Onage taking the series 3-1. And that will see him through to the advanced division, where he will play against Perez, the dark horse of the tournament, from his results in the Pro Division round of 16. So I think we have another great match on our hands. We saw King Onage utilize his 3 main civilizations here, India, Sioux, and Aztec. And Perez also very familiar with the Aztec. Perhaps we'll see an Aztec mirror in the next series, but as GiveUAnxiety said, Good games. Well played. Championsh and GiveUAnxiety as well. GiveUA not able to pull it together, and that will see him eliminated from the ESOC Winter Championship 2020. But I think he made some good moves, especially in Game 3. I liked what he did. Kept on the pressure, knew his win condition with Germany, and executed a nice win against Championsh's France. But that is the only match for now. There are a few matches scheduled, not quite on the calendar, but I think there might be Prince of Kabul versus Poissondu 44. Part of the Advanced Division Round 2. That'll be happening at 13 GMT, so if I'm not mistaken, 4 hours from now. Now, I'm not entirely sure if that'll be casted. It's kind of late notice, and we don't have any casters organized for it, but I think that match is happening at that time, so if it is being casted, just tune in at that time. If it's not, you don't see anything live on ESOC TV, then you know what's up. The players are probably playing their match, and we'll see the results later. But that has been it for the midnight stream from myself, DJ Cometk. I want to thank you all for tuning in for the, for most of you, the early morning stream, and if you're in China, the, what is it? I guess the afternoon stream. But thank you guys for watching, and if you've enjoyed the show, do consider subscribing to ESOC. We have quite a few fun emotes to use. It's a great way to support the channel, support the website, and to allow us to continue hosting fun events for the future and beyond.